Hey everybody, Mike Gillette with a question. How's your attitude? How is your attitude? Now, is attitude important? Lots of people say so. I say so. But attitude is tricky because it's easily shaped by external circumstances, where we happen to be, the things we happen to be doing. And if the where or the things aren't things that we like, it's very easy to develop a negative attitude, and a negative attitude is not helpful. So I'm going to share with you a philosophical principle about attitude shaping and attitude refocusing, as well as a real-world example of how I used this particular philosophical principle on the job in my years as a bodyguard. So first, the principle, and this comes from a training course that I had a hand in developing about 15 or so years ago for the University of Nevada, Las Vegas. It's a college-level course on bodyguard work. And in addition to all of the methodological things and the driving and the trauma care and, how to spot bad guys in a huge crowd and all of these other things, there were some philosophical points that we would share because they were just important. They sort of inform the worldview of the aspiring bodyguard. And one of those was this: wherever you are, that's the place to be. Wherever you are, that's the place to be. And this simply means that in whatever setting you may find yourself, whether at sea, in an urban setting, a rural setting, in an unfamiliar setting, regardless, wherever you are, that's the place to be. Meaning, that's how you have to act. That needs to be your attitude. You need to seem comfortable in this space. You need to seem at home in that space. And there are several reasons why that's important for a bodyguard. Number one, if you can look comfortable in whatever setting the client happens to find themselves in, or whatever setting they want to be in, it makes them more comfortable. If you look uncomfortable, that makes them comfortable. Demeanor is a very contagious thing. Number two, if you look out of place in a particular place, well, it kind of becomes obvious that you don't belong. And people who don't belong oftentimes are bodyguards. People who are just sticking out, and you can't stick out as a bodyguard. It's hard enough for a guy who looks like me to blend in. So attitudinally, I have to control for that. So I have to seem at home wherever I may happen to find myself. Does that make sense? And finally, it's good for you, but I'll talk more about that in a moment. So here's the real world example. Wherever you are is the place to be. Some years back, I was with a female client, and this female client loved to shop. So shop she did. When we were in Las Vegas on a particular trip, we made an appointment at a store called Camille Flawless. Camille Flawless is an extremely high-end women's clothing store in the Grand Canal Shops of the Venetian Casino. So the thing about the store is, although it caters to celebrities and high-end folk, the store itself is not perhaps what you would expect. It is tiny. Now, they've got a reasonable sized back room with all of their inventory and so forth, but the sales floor itself is about as big as my living room. And my living room is probably about as big as your living room. So here we are in the store. There's the client, there's me, there's Camille, there's one additional sales associate, there's a couple of chairs, and that's it, a mirror. So small space. Now, how long did I have to occupy this space while reminding myself this is the place to be? 3.5 hours. 3.5 hours of watching one woman endlessly try on expensive dresses and provide feedback, because when you're the only male in that space, you're going to be asked for feedback. So that's what I did. I gave my feedback, which is hilarious because I'm obviously very concerned about things like high fashion. Nonetheless, for 3.5 hours, I conducted myself as though the where I was, Camille Flawless, was the place to be. And it wasn't just helpful for the reasons that I pointed out earlier. It wasn't just something that made the client more comfortable. because it also made Camille, the store owner, more comfortable, because it was just us primarily in that very small space. It also made me blend in more because I was acting as though I was completely at home. I was not minding the time. I was oblivious to the time. The whole point of our presence there was to try on dresses, probably buy a few. And of course, the most important part, and the part that's relevant to you, is that because I was able to authentically be present in that moment without judging the moment, without worrying about whether this was something that I like to do or not, because that was irrelevant. Okay, when I'm on the client's dime, I'm living in the client's world, and my job is to be as pleasant and tactically appropriate a part of that world as I can be. And part of the tactical appropriateness, oddly, is my ability to just seem at home in their world. So that's what I did. 3.5 hours, Camille flawless. I don't know if that's a record for a guy, but it's probably up there in maybe the top 5 or top 10 in that particular shop. Did we get some dresses? We did. Did we spend a lot of money? We did. Not my money, not my concern. Did I end up carrying dresses out of the store because the client didn't do that? I did that too. Did I want to be carrying dresses all through the Grand Canal shops, the Venetian Casino? Didn't matter. So I didn't make it matter. We are in control of so much more than we realize. And when we realize that, if we can make ourselves realize that and accept that premise, we can start laying the groundwork for being much more comfortable in our own worlds and much more content in our own worlds. Is attitude important? I would say yes. Are you in charge of your attitude? 100%. So take charge of your attitude. Wherever you are, that's the place to be. Start living that and see how it feels.